we go. Yeah. What's going on, guys? EJR here again. Today, installing the AIM MXK10 dash for the 2019 ZX10R. This thing's pretty badass and looked forward to by a lot of people who've been using these bikes because the boring ass dash that's been on this bike since 2011 hasn't been updated even up to 2019. So the really fancy 2019 ZX10RR, which is a $24 and change thousand MSRP, gets this same dash. So that's kind of depressing for a lot of the ZX10 owners, but this thing is kind of a saving grace. But don't let anybody fool you, it is not cheap. I think US retail is $11.25, so yeah, be prepared to spend money. However, it looks badass. I already have it on the Bitch Ninja, and I'm going to be installing it on this today, and I think it looks probably, I haven't seen the new 2020 BMW with the V4R TFT gauges yet, but I think it looks better than so far all of the other ones. The R1, the Suzuki. It looks a lot like the Suzuki, but it's got a lot more color and pop than the Suzuki TFT dash. I'm going to go ahead and get started and you have to tear the whole front end of this bike apart. So you're going to start with the side fairings, and then you got to slowly remove the front cowl section, and then you can get to the dash piece. Luckily, I've already removed all the emissions, so this is actually going to be a much easier job this time through than the first time. So I'm going to get going on that. I'm not going to film the teardown of this because if you go on AIM's website, which is the creator of that dash, they have a brief how-to video of just showing what bolts and clips you have to get the whole front section off the bike. So I'll refer you to that for that, and in the meantime, I'm gonna tear it apart. So I'll catch back up with you guys in a second. All right, so as you can see, I got it all torn down. It looks a lot worse than it really is, but it's actually not very hard to get it to where it is. And all you're gonna do is come around this side, we're gonna come back here, we're gonna disconnect the main harness of the factory dash, and then we're gonna pull out these 3 screws. Now, on this bike, this is a different snout. This will normally be 10mm hex bolts, whereas in this case here, it's just some Phillips head bolts. So I'm gonna pull those 3 bolts out, and then I'll come back to you then, and I'll show you how exactly you have to replace this, but it's extremely straightforward and easy. All right, the dash assembly's out. All you're gonna do is remove these 3 Phillips screws, and this dash will separate from the actual stay. And now let's come over here and unbox the AIM MXK10. Pretty straightforward here, just slide this off. Have some stickers. The instruction manual just tells you to go online for the instructions. We have the actual MXK10 dash, which has got its own little protective tape here. Now you just have foam pieces, and then at the bottom we have, this is the GPS module, which isn't mandatory to use, but we're going to hook it up anyway because it came with it. This is the bracket assembly, and these are the bolts that you would use to screw it into the stay itself. So first we'll swap the dash over. This is a legit plug-and-play item, so for the entry-level guys that are worried about working on things that are difficult, it's extremely easy. I myself am not a fan of wiring. I hate having to deal with wiring things, so this was a no-brainer for me. AIM makes a bunch of other universal kits that you could use on this bike that would require splicing wires, wiring, etc. This one literally is 2016 to 2019 ZX10R specific, and it's the only one actually that they make that's plug and play for any bike. So there's the OEM dash, here's the AIM one. Downside is the AIM dash is a little heavier, but it's worth it. Wiping down behind the dash, since, you know, things that'll never be seen have to be cleaned too. Here at EJR Performance Garage, LLC, Inc., Incorporated. I'm copywriting all of that for anybody who asks. You do have to use the supplied screws. They're a different thread than the OEM ones. They're smaller. Put those aside, put the AIM dash. See, it's got the 3 rubber grommets, tabs. Push those literally right in like that. I really need to upgrade my screwdriver set using the old school Craftsmans that don't have magnetic tips. In other words, they suck. I don't know if you guys noticed, Craftsman's back in business. I don't know who bought them out, but it looks like their new tools are a good amount more quality than the older. They're like actual tools. I'm not gonna stay away from their, I'm gonna stay away from their power tools because I'm a Milwaukee fan, even though they're all made in China, no matter what anybody likes to say. But their hand tools look pretty nice. It might be a screwdriver set in my future. But all right, make sure those screws are good and tight, and that's literally it for the dash to the stay. I'm gonna screw it back down, and then I'm gonna start reassembling it. But before I do that, after I tighten this down, I'm gonna show you how to hook up the GPS module. All right, this is the GPS mount bracket. There are 2 female threads on the top of the triple tree, on the underside of it right here. The supplied bolts don't come with washers, I add those. They go here. We're not gonna film that for the sake of how tedious it is to actually get these bolts started. Once they get started, it's easy to do, but it's definitely a pain in the ass. So I'm gonna jump back with you guys once I get this on, and I'll show you how to mount the GPS to it and then into the actual AIM dash. All right, so we got the GPS module. The bracket is mounted right here. Slide this over the throttle cable. And like I said earlier, you don't need this GPS module. It just comes with the kit, and I figure why not install it since it does look pretty trick. It's a 19mm nut on the back side. Let's try and keep it as square as possible. I saw another one installed the other day, and this thing was all not square, and it drove me out of my mind. It's actually not square. I'm talking shit, and it's not square. Now that that's tight, we're gonna take this, go into the back side. There are 2 ports here, USB and expansion. This is gonna go in expansion, the easy way to tell. There are 5 prongs on the expansion and only 3 for the USB. Once that's seated in there, it just threads on, kind of like a coax wire or cable. All right, once that wire is good and tight, I'm gonna take the main cable, plug it in, push the boot over, and that's actually all that's needed to install this dash in this bike. I wanna bolt everything back together again off camera, and then once it's all done, I'll turn it on for you guys and give you a sample of what it looks like. All right, so we're gonna do a nice sexy peel of this film since not many times you get to do this on a bike. Oh, and it already broke. I already screwed it up. God damn it. There we go. Yeah. Boom. All right, let's see what ignition looks like. This is in default mode here. I haven't changed anything on it. And you get one of 2 displays here for the tack and the layout, selected by the select arrows here up and down. I personally prefer this one here, which is kind of like the Yamaha and the Suzuki where it revs this way, versus like this, it wraps around like a traditional speedometer, or excuse me, tachometer. Defaulted into kilometers an hour, but I'll switch that over later. In the next video, I'm gonna go over this a little bit more. I'm even gonna show you guys a test ride, but there's a software for this that you use with, say, a laptop or a cell phone, where you can plug in. You can even change the startup image, which I'll shut it off again and I'll turn it back on. This startup image right here can be changed to whatever you want it to be. It's an 800 by 600 file, which I believe is the pixel of this, 800 by 600, which is pretty good. So anyway guys, that goes ahead and wraps up this video in terms of installing the dash and showing you what it's about. The next video, like I said, I'll get on the laptop and I'll show you guys some little tricks with the software and things you can actually change on it. But you can supposedly use the GPS module to display speedo instead of using the ECU readout for that. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm gonna take you guys for a ride on the bike too. I'm gonna probably do a night ride so you can just maybe focus in a little bit more, and there's a lot less going on in the video so you actually see it. But alright guys, that goes ahead and wraps up this video of the AIM install. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, subscribe if you haven't, and if you already have subscribed, tap the little stupid bell icon, wait for the next video. Alright guys, take care.